Welcome to Inspired Living with Mark and Kim. Every Wednesday, Mark and Kim, along with their special guests, will explore thought-provoking topics and ideas that promote creativity, self-help, healing, happiness, and well-being to inspire you on your spiritual journey. Each week, Mark and Kim will discuss different paths to achieving a more spiritual, balanced, happy, and healthy lifestyle. Topics will elevate consciousness and range from metaphysics to the human and social experience, and all things spiritual. Welcome to an inspired community that offers support, encouragement, and new ways of thinking. Mark and Kim are tested, certified, and professional spiritual mediums, metaphysical teachers, healers, and spiritual advisors with their own individual spiritual practices in Seattle, Washington, and Los Angeles, California. You are the inspired and the inspiration.
And hello, inspired listeners. Today is Wednesday, December 30th, 2015, and it is the last Wisdom Wednesday for the year here on Inspired Living with Mark and Kim on OMTimes Radio. Happy holidays from Kim and I to you and your family. We're just sending all of our inspired listeners much happiness, health, and healing for 2016. It's hard to imagine that 2016 is literally right around the corner. I am your co-host, Mark Lanehart, founder of the Intuitive Prospector in Seattle, Washington. And if you'd like to explore and discover more about my spiritual practice and spiritual prospecting and what that's all about, please visit me online at marklanehart.com, or you can internet search the Intuitive Prospector. I would love to hear from you and work with you as we move into 2016. And back from holiday vacation is my friend, Best American Psychics colleague and co-host Kim Thalken, founder of Love First in Encino, California. Happy holidays and Happy New Year to you, Kim.
Happy holidays to you too, Mark, and to our inspired community. Thank you for being with us today. It is hard to believe, Mark. I can't believe we are wrapping up this year.
Yeah, it's just the year's gone by so fast, and this show is all about, for the next hour, it's all about just you and I. No special guests. We are the special guests for this show. We're going to be talking about
right.
A year in review and how we got to this point, and how Inspired Living came about to be broadcast on OMTimes Radio, and what 2016 is shaping up to be for not only the radio show, but both of our spiritual practices, mine up here in Seattle, Washington, and yours down in Encino, California. It's already shaping up to be a busy year. My calendar's already starting to fill up for the month of March and April already, if you can believe it.
Well, I do believe it, and that's what makes time feel like it goes by so fast is when you start booking out ahead. Mm-hmm. But as you said, there's a lot going on with both of our practices up there in Seattle and down here at Love First in Encino, California. You can find me at lovefirst.info. I would love to work with you too in the new year. I'm always excited and honored to work with all of the clients that I have been privileged to do so over the last few years. So exciting times ahead of us. Let's make it a good one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we're going to be talking about, for this show, we're going to be talking about some of our predictions for 2016. You've got a little inspirational messages from Archangel Gabriel that you're going to be talking about. I'm going to be talking about some numerology and how numbers in 2016 impacts all of us. I'm very fascinated with numerology, and I do a lot of numerology in my readings. So we're going to be talking about 2016 and what that breaks down to. But before we get into the good stuff, Kim, you want to let our inspired listeners know where they can find the encore shows, social media, and also our positive affirmation, the last one for 2015.
Absolutely. So you can find us on Facebook under Inspired Living Radio, Twitter and Instagram under Inspired for Us. That's Inspired, the number 4 and Us. And Google Plus, Inspired Living with Mark and Kim. And this is where you can interact with us and find out about our upcoming shows. This is where you can also send through questions today and every Wednesday for either Mark or myself or our guests. And we've already got some questions that have come in. Everybody's, wanting to know what's ahead for them in the new year. So this is going to be an exciting show. You can also listen to all of our archives on OMTimes Radio, Podbean, SoundCloud. You can find them also on Mark's website, markleanhart.com. You can find some of them on mine, although I'm not as good about updating all of them. So you can find some of them on lovefirst.info, Vimeo, and YouTube. Now, in terms of our inspired affirmation for the month, as we wrap out the month of December and head into the new year, this month's affirmation is, I receive every gift the universe has for me. I am bountiful, blissful, and beautiful. So what a great thing to kind of shape for ourselves, receiving every gift the universe has to offer us as we head into the new year, and to head into the new year with that expectation.
Yeah, and it's the last one of the year, and I love that we do the positive affirmations, because it really, for the entire month, and we'll be doing this in January, we'll be talking about something in January. We're not sure what that positive affirmation is going to be. A lot of times, Kim and I, before we do our next show, we actually have our strategic meetings, and we think about what we're feeling energetically, what's going on in the world, and that's how we come up with our positive affirmations, and then we say it through the whole month, because studies have shown when you say something for 30 days, whether you visualize it, you say it, you think it, you write it down, you really start to change and start to align with that type of energy and that thinking, and your life can change in amazing ways. So it'll be interesting to see what 2016 January's positive affirmation is for inspired living.
Yes, it will. I mean, there's so many things that we can choose from, and every month has been a different one, and a different one to help us in different ways. So we've got another 12 more inspired affirmations coming up next year.
Yeah, and we do. We try to just pair those to what's going on in the world at that time, because it's most important to live presently for what's going on, at that time. And, I was just thinking, we're going to have some predictions coming up, but Kim and I wanted to also let our listening audience know that we don't do predictions. We don't tell you if you're going to win the lottery. We don't tell you if you're going to, pass away, or if a loved one's going to pass away, but just things that we sometimes pick up on, the residual energy that's going on in the world. And some of that Kim will be talking about later in the show, the second half of the show, with some of the messages from Archangel it was Gabriel, right? Or was it?
Yes.
It was Gabriel. Okay. And, just things to be on the lookout for in 2016, because, Abraham Lincoln said it best. The best thing about the future is it comes one day at a time. And I always remind my clients, when they're doing a reading with me, that I'm not going to predict your future. I can give you, some energetic road signs along the roads of life for you, but it's up to you with free will and choice on how you live your life presently. But just some things that we're going to be talking about, and one of them is numerology, which I've been fascinated with since I started my path in spirituality. And we're going to be talking about what 2016 is from a numerology standpoint, and some of the things that are going to be taking place in 2016. But as far as predictions are only just to make you aware of what's coming or what could happen in the future. And again, at the end of the day, your free will and choice decides how you want to go about things. So, Kim, what was your favorite? We've been doing the show now here on OMTimes Radio since August 5th is when we first premiered on OMTimes. And before that, we were over on another network on iHeartRadio. So we've been doing radio for over a year now, professionally. Out of the last year in 2015, what was some of your favorite guests? What were some of your favorite memories of working in radio?
My goodness, Mark, I don't know where to start. In fact, I was looking at some of our archives, just remembering all of the great guests that we've had and all the different things that we've learned from them. The earlier part of this year, we were on another great show that we really enjoyed, and we learned a lot from those guests too, Hour to Empower, with some of our other colleagues from BAP. And I think the one that stands out to me is the medical medium, Anthony William, who was just phenomenal in the work that he did. I mean, he practically blew up the system because everybody from all over the world was calling in because of the work that he does helping people with their health. But as we look at more specifically inspired living, I mean, there are all kinds of, there are actually a few messages that I think were really meaningful that I remember. One of them came from a guest called Nurka, and she worked a lot with language and how language can shape your experiences. And I remember that she said that one of the examples she gave was that she was speaking to realtors, and it was during the downturn in the real estate market. And this realtor came up to her and said, how am I going to make it through this? And she said, well, boy, when you approach something from that perspective, how am I going to make it through? That's not a very uplifting way to think about something, because you're insinuating that there's a possibility that you might not make it through. And she said, instead, when you change your language around to something along the lines of how can I be more aware of the opportunities that surround me, that I remember that. It's like, wow, that really changes everything, doesn't it? I mean, the way I feel is much lighter compared to how am I going to make it through to how can I be more aware of the opportunities that surround me? So that's the importance of the language that we choose to use, and you can feel it. You can feel the difference. So that's one of many things I think that stuck out to me. I like that, how she turned that situation around very quickly.
Yeah, it's very similar to the late, great Dr. Wayne Dyer when he talked about when you change the way you look at things, things start to change. And so, yeah, it's a very similar concept as far as your thoughts and the way you're thinking. Yeah, she was a fun guest. She was that was a very, very interesting show. And if you can believe it, we're going to be going to our first break here shortly. But real quick, I do want to give a shout out. I've got a colleague in England, so all the way 8 hours ahead, so it's 8 o'clock, I believe, or close to 9 o'clock. But Claire, if you're listening, we just wanted to give you a Inspired Listener shout out. Thanks for listening, and thank you to all of our Inspired listeners for listening in for today's last show of 2015, Inspired Living with Mark and Kim here on OMTimes Radio.
Hi, Claire.
We'll be back in 2 minutes.
Feed your soul with waves of consciousness on OMTimes Radio.
Eros Evolution is where sexuality and spirituality meets. Join me, clinical sexologist Martha Tara Lee, on Eros Evolution on Thursdays, 4 p.m. Eastern on OMTimes Radio.
As difficult as it is to believe, there are places in Africa where human traffickers sell albino children and their body parts for use in magic rituals. Humanity Healing International is actively working in Uganda to change this paradigm. The Albino Rescue Project finds albino children who are at risk and places them in safe schools and environments where they can learn and grow free from fear. To learn more or to sponsor a child, visit humanityhealing.org. Humanity Healing is where your heart is.
Looking for inspiration?
Want to be inspired?
Not sure where to go?
Find Mark and Kim every Wednesdays at 3 p.m. Eastern on Inspired Living.
Topics will elevate consciousness and range from metaphysics to the human and social experience and all things spiritual.
Welcome to an inspired community that offers support, encouragement, and new ways of thinking. You are the inspired and the inspiration.
This is Julie Geigel.
I'm Maggie Chula.
And I'm Catherine Glass.
And we're the Psychic Angel Channelers. Join us every week here on OMTimes Radio for Angel Talk Tuesday at 10 a.m. Eastern Time.
The angels have heard your call and are here to help.
Are you ready to receive?
Remember your magnificence with Angel Talk Tuesday.
The future of Internet radio is here. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
And welcome back, Inspired listeners, to our last show of the year on Inspired Living with Mark and Kim. Thank you so much for being with us today. And every Wednesday, so excited for what this next year has for us and all of our community. In fact, Mark, we've got some pretty cool upcoming guests that I think our listeners are going to love. Next week, starting with next week, we've got Allison Hayes, the rock girl, who is, I mean, you can spend hours just talking to her. She's so knowledgeable and personable and just a lovely spirit that I think we're going to have so much fun, and our listeners are really going to love and learn a lot from her.
Yeah, and she sells some really cool crystals and rocks. I got to meet Allison this year at the Best American Psychics Spiritual Conference in Asheville, North Carolina. That's where I think she's there half the year, and then she's in New York the other half. But I got the coolest rock crystal from her, and I've had it now for a couple months, and it's already changed over time. And yeah, that's going to be a fascinating and fun show. Allison is a sweet lady, and we look forward to having her on. And then right after that, the month of January, Kim, we have some pretty cool guests coming on. We have one of my mentors from the Arthur Findlay College in England, Eamon Downing, who is releasing his first book that's going to be talking all about metaphysics. So if you're interested in metaphysics, which is the study of our senses outside of our five known senses, he's going to be on, and that's somebody you're definitely going to want to listen to, because he has just a plethora of knowledge, and I've learned so much from him as one of my spiritual mentors. And he's actually, if you follow spirituality, he's actually he mentored under the late Gordon Higginson out of England, and part of the Arthur Findlay College and SNU, Spiritual National Union. So another show that you're not going to want to miss. And then who's after Eamon?
Well, we've got Michelle White Dove, who was voted the best psychic in all of America. So she's got quite a following. She does a lot of work on TV and celebrities, and she gives her 2016 predictions. So she's going to be fascinating too, and we'll of course be taking questions for all of the psychic mediums that we have on, which I think our listeners will love. And then we also have guests following that, like Dr. Barbara DeAngelis, who is slated to be on our show as well. In addition to, when you talked about training under Gordon Higginson's, we've got Paul Jacobs and Mavis Patilla, very well known and respected mediums from Europe that are going to be joining us as well, and doing quite a bit of work here teaching in the States, which is a real treat that we would have these kinds of teachers coming over to the U.S. without having to go overseas. So very much looking forward to them. And if you haven't witnessed their work or experienced it, it's really quite something. I know I saw Mavis do a gallery event and was just blown away. I don't know how else to say it, but it was really something to see.
It's just one of those, you got to be there to see it to really believe it kind of thing, right?
Yeah, pretty much so. I mean, we can talk about how great some of these people are, but boy, when you see them in action, you can understand why we would say that. So a lot of great guests coming up. We've got, gosh, Mark, you and I have got workshops and classes that we're going to be doing. Just for myself, I'll just give a heads up on a mediumship development class that I'm going to be hosting on Saturday, February 6th. We've actually moved the date back from January 23rd to February 6th. If you're interested in that, please let me know. We'd love to have you. And also an angel communication class. The date has not been set yet, but I'll be hosting that as well, probably in March or April, I would think. But my site will have some of the specifics on that as soon as I hone in on it. But those are some exciting classes that I have coming up. And then I'll be doing some expos and fairs. I'll be at the New Earth Expo on Sunday, January 23rd in Manhattan Beach. I do hope you'll stop by. If not just to say hello, come by and have a reading. I'd love to work with you. I'm also going to be doing a spiritual energy fair on Saturday, January 16th at the Center for Spiritual Living in Camarillo. So likewise, if you are in the area, would love to meet you in person. And you can always visit my site for more information at lovefirst.info. And Mark, how about yourself? I know you've got a busy calendar.
I do. In fact, first, the last couple months was getting moved into Seattle. So we moved from Marysville, which is about 30 minutes north of Seattle. So the last couple months I took off November and December, really just to get settled into the new house, get my prospecting healing studio all set up, which is done. And I'm actually holding my first metaphysical workshop here in Seattle. So if you're in the Seattle area, you'd like to attend, you can find me on Facebook. I've got also a local meetup group that you can participate in, or you can go to my Facebook page of Soul Adventures or the Intuitive Prospector, and it'll be out there for you to sign up on. But it's called the Nice Aura Workshop, and it's going to be on January 24th here at my healing studio in Seattle. It's going to be from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m., and we're going to be, for those of you that don't know what the human aura is, we're going to be looking at the human energy field, the colors of the aura, and I'm going to actually give you some exercises on how to actually see with your own eyes the human aura and how you can tune into that. And then I have my first Spiritual Borders workshop on February 20th from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. up at A Path to Avalon in Arlington, Washington, with a few of my Canadian colleagues. We're going to be doing a joint workshop that's going to be dedicated to mediumship, spiritual inspiration, trance. So if you're interested in any of those workshops, please visit marklanehart.com. And then, there's a couple more expos that we're already planning for April and May, and it's going to be a busy, busy year, but I'm looking forward to it. I love doing this work, don't you?
This is, when you're living purposefully by the work that you're doing that brings you enjoyment, everything changes. So, yes, it's more than fulfilling, and it brings just so much happiness and joy into my life anyways. Before I forget, I would like to let our inspired listeners know that I am partnering up with a very dear colleague of mine, Mark Langford, who is the founder of a company called C Synergy. He is an extremely talented transformational career coach. He works a lot with universal laws. There's a spiritual angle to his coaching program. He really walks the walk. I mean, having been a Harvard MBA grad who left the corporate world for his passion, which is working with individuals to do the same. So he walks the walk. He's been an inspiration, I know, for me, and we're going to be partnering together where my intuitive and psychic abilities will be used to help his clients, the people, identify their passion, among other things, which will support his really comprehensive coaching program that he has in place. So I'm very excited to work with his clients when my abilities are needed and to work with Mark. He does great work. If you are in transition or looking to make the jump in your career, please find him at c-synergy.com, and his Mark Bird.
Yeah,
so thank you for that. Yes.
Just a shout out to Mark, and we had him on the show a while back, didn't we?
We did, and he actually has a book out that's actually been published since the last time we interviewed him, and you can find that on his website as well. He's a really talented guy, very, very personable, very smart, and he's not somebody who just preaches things. He actually lives what he preaches, and what he teaches. So he's a great person to work with.
He talks the talk and he walks the walk. Because we had him on right before his book was coming out, so that was a really great show. And I'm just kind of looking back at all of our guests that we've had on, and we've covered so many topics in the last year, from angel communications. We had Dr. Stephen Farmer on talking about how to connect with spirit animals and how children can connect with animals. We had Susan Kelly that talked about – that was an interesting show. I know that wasn't probably one of your favorites, about greening death and how the burial industry is changing our environment. So I thought that was I thought that was kind of an interesting show. And then, of course, our good friend Shamala Allah, who was talking all about the angels. That was a fun show. A lot of different things came through on that. And then we had Christopher Buck, who is the CEO of OMTimes Radio, talking about his outreach that he's doing around the world, and just a very that was probably one of the most inspiring shows, I think, to date for me, as far as the difference of, he's making a difference in those children's, the albino children in Africa. That was very eye-opening. So that's what's been interesting about doing this radio show, though, Kim, is all of the different topics and the things. That's why we call it Wisdom Wednesday, and the things that we've learned.
Yes, there's certainly every single Wednesday is something new, and I take away something that I learned from that show. And to be able to apply some of these things, too, that we've learned, I find to be one of the great parts of the show as well. So, Mark, we've got a couple of questions that have come through that I want to make sure that we get to, and let me just pull them up here. Again, if you've got questions for us, please always send them through on social media. We will make sure to bring them live to air. So the first one is, and I know we're going to be going through to break here pretty soon, but the first one comes from Barbara, and she says, this past year, I have focused on building my business and hoped that the love of my life would walk into my life. I've been dating, and it seems like mostly meeting some not very nice guys. Will this be my year for love? Great question. Love is such an important part of our lives that's what we all want, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think this year in 2016
Mark,
is going to be is going to tie into that really nice. And I think after the break, we'll address that question, and I'll get into the numerology of what 2016, because it's the year of the 9, and it's all about completion, and it's also about the universal year of completing things. So when we come back from break, let's get into that. And we'll be back in 2 minutes here on Inspired Living with Mark and Kim on OMTimes Radio.
The future of Internet radio is here. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
Have you been searching for a perspective beyond the mainstream? Check it out. Join your hosts, Yelito Pascual and Diana Gold Holland, on Share International Radio for thought-provoking views behind the news. Sundays at 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern on OMTimes Radio. You can also find us at shareontheairradio.org. This may be the message of hope you've been waiting for.
Are you trying to get from point A to point B and need a little advice? Connect with the counselors at OMTimes Advisors. Whether you're looking for a life coach or a spiritual intuitive, the advisors participating at advisors.omtimes.com were carefully chosen based on their gifts, skills, and professionalism. OMTimes Advisors, connecting you with the best advisors in the business. One planet, 7.3 billion people, only one you. Life offers us many opportunities and learning experiences. Are you ready to explore and discover this beautiful planet, the life and energy all around us, the spiritual world, and what is unseen, along with your own personal soul adventure? Mark Lanehart, the intuitive prospector, is the spiritual connection you have been prospecting for. Internationally known as a tested and professional clairvoyant medium and spiritual advisor, Mark's work as a metaphysical teacher, medical instructor, radio show host, inspirational writer, and hiking guide are here to help you on a journey of self-discovery, healing, inspiration, education, and a whole lot of spiritual awesomeness. Dare to dream. Dare to explore. Dare to live. For more information on Mark's spiritual practice in Seattle, Washington, please visit marklanehart.com or internet search The Intuitive Prospector.
Dr. Kevin here, and I want to invite you every Thursday, 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern, to join me on the Dr. Kevin Show, where we have a diversity of guests who help you step outside the box, behind the curtain, and see what a load of crap is going on in the world today, so you have more information with which to make better decisions. We'll see you there. Namaste.
Feed your soul with waves of consciousness on OMTimes Radio.
And welcome back to Inspired Living with Mark and Kim here on OMTimes Radio, the voice of consciousness. Today's show is all about Kim and I talking about our guests for the last year, some of the review of what Inspired Living has been about, looking into 2016 and what's coming up and some of our guests. And we asked our Inspired listeners to post a couple questions, and you can do that right now if you head over to Facebook and click on Inspired Living Radio. That's our public page. It's opened up to anybody. If you want to interact live with the show, you can post your question there. And we did have a question come in. And Kim, real quick, we were going to cut to break, but if you could address that question one more time, because I'm going to look at it from a numerology standpoint around the question, because we're going to be talking about numerology all in this section of the show.
All right, sure. It's Barbara says, this past year she's focused on building her business and hoped that the love of her life would walk into her life. She says she's been dating, but it seems like mostly meeting some not very nice guys. Mm-hmm. So will this be her year for love?
Okay. So let's talk first about 2016. And if anybody knows numerology, it's a practice that's been around for thousands of years. And I always let my clients know if it can last for thousands of years, then there's something to it. If it was complete bunk or BS, it wouldn't last 2 weeks. So I do a lot of numerology. I think it's important to look at numbers. We wake up to numbers. We go to sleep to numbers. We come in on a certain date when we come to Earth. We leave on a certain date when we go back to spirit. So numbers are always all around us. And if you've ever noticed, you look at the clock, the numbers are always the same, or they're a reminder of somebody of when they passed a certain date. 111, 333, 222. I know for me, 333 is always, I wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning, it always says 333. But for numerology in 2016, the way that you look at numerology is you break numerology down to a single digit. So if you've never worked with numbers and numerology, it's very simple. You just take 2016, 2 plus 0 plus 1 plus 6, and that equals 9. So this year, as we approach 2016, we're coming into the year of the 9. So that would mean that 2015 is the year of the 8. And so everything goes in a 9-year cycle. So we're going to be coming to what's called the year of a universal year, or the year of the humanitarian. And what does that mean? It's all about completion. It's all about forgiveness. It's all about moving forward. And so, Barbara, for your question, thank you for your question, and thanks for listening in. What I did is I asked Barbara for her date of birth. I'm not going to announce that on the air. I don't think she would like that. But what I did is, Barbara, as I looked at your number from your date of birth, and you're known as what's a number 5 life path in numerology. And what that means is that you're the freedom, love, and adventurer. And so some of your experiences for next year is to really live life to the fullest. So dating is definitely not going to be something that's going to work for you in 2016, because you're a person that's always on the go. You're the type of energy that's looking for new experiences, but also a great storyteller. And people are going to be looking to you to tell great and fascinating stories. I do think that love will come to completion for you next year, specifically in the summer, because it is a year of completion for you. And what's interesting, Barbara, is I think that this love connection that you're going to have is going to come through, not through the dating scene or online dating. I have to say that it's going to come through something to do with storytelling or an experience that you are going to either have or share, and this person is going to have the similar experience, and there's going to be a connection made there for you. So from a numerology standpoint, again, Barbara, you're the year of the 5, which is the freedom, loving adventure, somebody that likes to be on the go and experience everything in life that you can. And in 2016, the year of completion, you are going to have somebody that's of like-mindedness, same energy, but having two people on the go, you're going to have to find some balance and responsibility and commitment as well. And that's some of the life lessons for a Life Path 5 is being able to plan and prioritize, and also to focus and commit on what you want. But I would get away from the online dating because it is a very unsettling type of environment. You just don't know what you're going to get. And keep telling your stories. You're a great storyteller, and people are drawn to you because of that. So thank you for the question.
That would be great too, especially if she's focusing on building her business and telling her story. So that's a nice fit there. So Barbara, and it's interesting, Mark, that you picked up next summer, because I was getting that over the next 6 months, it's going to be really important for her to do some work around there's some healing work that needs to be done with some relationships in her life. And you know what, Barbara, I'm going to actually just send you a private message on this, what I'm picking up around that, but also shifting how you feel about yourself and what you believe you are deserving of, because that comes up as important. And also trusting men. There's some trust issues there that it feels like would help you to work through and to better understand. Trusting that men, I know that you've been experiencing some not very nice guys, and we don't like that. There's no room in our lives for not nice guys. We've all experienced them, just as men have experienced not nice women. So I had to throw that in there too. Okay. So anyway, so there's some things around trust and some healing work that would be helpful and beneficial to you in terms of clearing some of that up to bring in nicer experiences with nicer men. And I will private message you on that.
And I would even say that the positive affirmation would fit very nicely with Barbara about the universe giving her everything because she is bountiful, beautiful, and being accepting of that as well. So that's a good positive affirmation to repeat to yourself, Barbara.
Yeah, and to add to that too, when I got the message, I pulled out Louise Hay's book, You Can Heal Your Life, and I found something that I thought was nice and fitting here. And it says, hunting for love never brings the right partner. It only creates longing and unhappiness. So love is never outside ourselves. Love is within us. That's a big thing, for us to learn. We've got to understand that first. And it's very helpful to do that so that we can bring in healthy relationships. So I'll leave you with that, Barbara, and I'll also follow up with a personal message to you.
Yeah, great question. And again, just coming back for our inspired listeners for 2016, again, it really is about completion of a cycle. So this cycle would have started because numbers go 1 through 9 and then it starts over. So 2017 will actually be the year of the 1 or new beginnings. But for next year, it just means that it's coming to an end. So whatever was started in 2007, it could be a relationship, it could be career, it could be your own journey of discovering something. It didn't have to start in 2007, but that's just the whole cycle of numerology. It started in 2007, we're coming into 2016, and it's completing, and then the cycle starts back over in the year of 1. So everything in the 9 year of 2016 is again all about completion. It's going to be all about rest. It's going to be all about forgiveness. And everything that that you have started is going to come full circle and come to completion in 2016. And for some of us, that can be the circle of life. Those that cross over into spirit and pass away in 2016. That means that there's a new cycle starting where a life that does transition into spirit means that a new life, a new baby, could come into the family or friends in 2016 or early 2017 as well. So everything is about completion, and it's really just about, for many of us around the world, it's really about, our own karma and our dharma of energy, of what we start, we need to finish. And sometimes that can be, the lessons can be a little painful if you look at it with that perception, but it's about completing the lessons and moving forward. So again, relationships, careers, major moves, maybe new locations, death, new life, major events in the world that are going to be happening in 2016, because it's also the year of the humanitarian, where it's all about compassion, being caring and helping others and being in service to others. That's what next year is going to represent. And so I'm looking forward to seeing the great healing that's going to take place in 2016 and how people are going to come together, a more concept of connectivity as well. And I think, Kim, we're going to talk about that with Archangel Gabriel and some of the things that you had picked up on your meditation here in the next segment of the show. Did we have any other questions, or did we want to hold off on that question until the next break?
We'll hold off on the question, I think, because it's important and if we don't get to the question on air, I'll just respond back. We can both respond back via private message.
Okay, perfect. So with that, 2016, again, the year of the 9, all about completion, rest, forgiveness, and completing the cycle of what you started. So Kim, you had a great meditation, and you wanted to talk about some things that had come through from the archangels, which is very powerful messages for the earth. And I think you said there was 5 different things that you wanted to talk to, and I think this would be probably a good time to get into, or at least start that and see what is coming up for 2016 from the archangels.
Well, very interesting, Mark, because you and I did not speak about, I don't follow numerology in the way that Mark does, or I should say even at all. And so we didn't really, and I didn't share with you what the messages were from Archangel Gabriel. And it's very
I'm listening intently as well. I'm one of the listeners now.
Well, I'll tell you that it mirrors a lot of what you said in terms of humanitarian work, connectivity, etc. And I'll just say that normally when I channel information, it comes from more of a collective consciousness, and I really don't have that often have this happen to me where one being might step forward and make their presence known in the way that Archangel Gabriel did to me the other day. That was the first of that experience for me. And I think that's one of the beauties of spiritual development, is that as you go down your path, you just never know how things are going to unfold, because just because we're psychic mediums doesn't mean that the learning stops there and we just continue on. We're opening up new channels. We're opening up, our awareness in different ways that can't be anticipated. So when we come back, we'll talk further about these specific messages from Archangel Gabriel, and I look forward to sharing that with you. Stay with us for 2 minutes, and we'll be right back on OMTimes Radio, Inspired Living with Mark and Kim.
The best of the holistic, spiritual, and conscious world. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
Looking for inspiration?
Want to be inspired?
Not sure where to go?
Find Mark and Kim every Wednesdays at 3 p.m. Eastern on Inspired Living.
Topics will elevate consciousness and range from metaphysics to the human and social experience and all things spiritual.
Welcome to an inspired community that offers support, encouragement, and new ways of thinking. You are the inspired and the inspiration.
What if business could be fun? What if business is the adventure of living? What are you choosing? Where do you do business that makes it easier, more fun, or more joyful for you? We'd love to see where you do business. Connect with us on Instagram at Joy of Business or Twitter at Joy of Business, and share your pictures with hashtags BusinessDoneWhere and Joy of Business. Let's change the world with business. Are you seeking answers to life questions? Would you like to connect to a departed loved one? Are you suffering from pain, stress, or anxiety? Kimberly Thalkin is a tested, certified, and professional psychic, spiritual medium, energy healer, hypnotherapist, and the founder of Love First, where life transformations happen. Love First services support, guide, and empower individuals by connecting them to their highest potential to live a healthier, joyful, and meaningful life that's filled with purpose. All services can be done by phone, Skype, or in person in Encino, California. please visit lovefirst.info. That's LOVEFIRST.info for more information.
Hey ladies, do you want to have that good hair day feeling all the time? Gentlemen, would you want your special someone to have that glow, letting you know she is feeling completely satisfied? This feeling and that glow can be yours by embracing your sexual power. So join me, Rachel Kenley, award-winning romance author, on the O-Spot. The O-Spot will guide you to that peak with guest interviews, book discussions, and conversations on the thrills of sexual empowerment. Put the zing back in your life. Come up and see me sometime on the O-Spot, live on Hump Day at 10 p.m. Eastern.
Bringing you the best of the conscious minds in the world. OMTimes Radio, your conscious lifestyle on steroids.
And welcome back to Inspired Living with Mark and Kim on OMTimes Radio. Thank you for being with us and staying with us. Before we went to break, we were talking about some very important messages that came through, that were channeled through over the last couple of days from Archangel Gabriel. And you can, if you're interested in learning more about Archangel Gabriel, there's quite a bit of information online. But there were 5 specific points that he said would be coming through, and lo and behold, over a couple of days, 5 specific points did come through. So I'd like to take this time to really share some of the messaging, because I think it's important, and it actually falls right in alignment with what Mark was talking about, being the humanitarian year next year, because point 1 of the messages that came through talked about there being energetic shifts that are starting to happen on the earth. And I don't really pick up a lot of earth stuff, but earth did come up quite a bit. So maybe my own awareness is starting to expand, you see. And so when shifts happen, there are other shifts that need to take place in order to bring things back into balance, right? So with these shifts, it's like the rules of the game, so to speak, are changing. All right, new requirements are in place in order to experience the greatest levels of happiness. And this requirement that was touched on here is the need to look beyond oneself. Okay, very, very important in this upcoming year. And that it's no longer acceptable to live in your own bubble of what's important to you without any consideration for the world around you. So the more you limit your consideration for the world around you by being self-absorbed, shall we say, the greater levels of unhappiness you'll experience. And the reason being is because we didn't come into this experience for the sole advancement of ourselves, but rather the advancement of the collective, of humanity as a whole. So right in line with what Mark was saying, the need to look beyond oneself. And I see that a lot, or sometimes I'll say with some of the clients that I work with, so absorbed with what's going on in their own little world, worried about one thing after another, unhappy, negativity sets in, etc. But once, if you shift the focus away from yourself, right, and you find what you'll find. Well, let's take a step back. By perhaps helping someone else or doing something that's nice for the environment, etc. Once you start to shift the focus away from yourself, and shift your attention to other things, other ways that you can be of service, then you'll see how good that feels. And it's no longer really about you, but really about everyone. So that was the first message that came through. And Mark, feel free to jump in if you've got any comments to this. But I thought it was really, really important. And I see the importance of that even with the people that I work with.
Yeah, and really, in a nutshell, it's time to spring clean your life and move forward towards better things in 2016. Like I said, whether it's career, relationships, your mindset and your behavior, it's really about outgrowing that from this year, moving into next year, and moving forward and leaving those things behind. I always like to say, let go, or hold on and get dragged, or let go. And that's what 2016 is going to be about, is letting go and moving forward and growing. And I always say once growth stops, decay begins. So it's important that we continue to learn in the physical sense, in the spiritual sense, mind, body, spirit, all within a balance approach.
And also the underlying theme that I saw, this common thread that ran through the messaging here, is the notion that we are all connected, as you said.
Yep.
So point 2 was greater understanding, or it becomes more evident that we are all connected. So it's less and less possible to live our lives in our own silo. And this becomes evident through world events that happen. Sometimes we take on the thought that, well, those kinds of things happen way over there across the world. Mm-hmm. And I can just continue on in my own comfortable space, living my own life, and it doesn't affect me here, so I'll just carry on. Well, that's going to be less and less possible for us to do. And so in that, we're going to actually see more and more that we are all connected. We've got to take responsibility for our thoughts and our choices, because everything we think, say, and do affects everyone else. Okay, so that was point number 2. Go ahead.
Kim, I would add to that too, as far as, because it's the year of the 9 and the humanitarian year, not just a year of completion and the universal year, but it's the humanitarian year. So you're going to see a lot more people with a different mindset, because you're right, it may happen somewhere else in the world, but we're all connected. So eventually, it's not happening maybe here yet, but it will. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. And next year will be a year where people will fight for the underdog, and they're going to be looking to make the world a better place.
Okay, yes, Mark, because number 5, we'll get to that, but lessons on the exploitation of humans. We'll get into that. But number 3 was there's going to be also a greater desire, or it becomes more important to take care of our home on a grander scale, which is the earth. So, and seeing the earth as our home collectively. So right now, or it's what we see more of is in the way we think of our homes is really like our individual homes, like where we sleep at night, but seeing our real home as the earth. And not because someone tells us this, or says that we should do this or should do that, but because something within us changes about how we see this. So we see the earth now being our home, and it's very important to take care of the earth. So I wasn't given how, but it's like something within us changes to be able to see that. It's like a reprogramming almost of an operating system in a computer. So you reprogram it, then the computer responds differently. So that was kind of the analogy that was given. So part of it happens organically through this reprogramming within us. But some of it will be learned through our choices that we make that result in either consequences or benefits to help in this learning. So that was 3. Now 4 moved into there being a greater sensitivity to all life, all living and breathing things. And this is, boy, did he kind of go into quite a bit here, but moving away from kind of an acceptance of destruction or killing just to kill. Mm-hmm. So it's like our moral compass has shifted, will begin to shift even more. It's going to be tightening up. So there's going to be less flexibility in terms of what used to be socially accepted. Okay, so an example that came to mind, or that I was shown, was Cecil the lion came up. So the notion of killing just to kill. We saw, the outrage that came from that. Unexpectedly, right? That just kind of happened. And all of a sudden there was kind of this world movement that stood up against that.
Or you could even go with SeaWorld and the caging of animals and the orca whales and the shows that they have now canceled, and that, people no longer accepting that type of behavior to go watch animals in a show, but to be free and to live.
That's right. So greater sensitivity to all of life. And what really came up too was, as it relates to Earth, the shameless destruction of trees came up. I guess this is a bigger problem than I realized, but the destruction of trees, the clearing of forests and natural habitats, where it's become kind of our nature to take. And then I got a whole list of as-ifs, and I found this to be really fascinating because Archangel Gabriel went in to say, as if it's okay to ignore the consequences and put them aside, as if it's, as if to ignore the disruption of balance, as if to endlessly take from the earth and nature, as if to arrogantly believe we humans are the ones to rule Mother Nature and to put the burden on her to live with our choices, as if she has no choice, as if to believe we choose what and who lives or dies. So it was pretty powerful because I don't think many of us are thinking yet in this way, but that these shifts are among us. The other thing that came up was the pollution of our soil. And I know pollution of water is very important too, but for some reason there was an emphasis on soil. So to think that we can do as we wish with contaminants in the soil and yet still have this expectation that it's going to bear fruit for our pleasure. You see, to arrogantly believe that the earth and nature conform to us versus this is an equal partnership of respect. So how it came through was that there was just a real lack of understanding and a misperception that we've come to a place where we set the rules when the rules have really been set for us so that we can live in balance and harmony. Thank you for being with us. I'll list number 5 online. And just Happy New Year to everyone. Lots of love.
What a great show. Be kind, be caring, be compassionate, everyone. We'll see you next year in 2016. Until next time, this is Inspired Living with Mark and Kim here on OMTimes Radio. Namaste.